Hi, I'm G of TSlug, and I'm normally the guy behind the camera. But with the introduction of the Galaxy Note 8, Samsung seems to want to appeal to both the working professional as well as the creative. And as a longtime photographer and videographer, I have to admit I was intrigued. So I had already lined up a hybrid project of video and photos, but instead of taking my normal cameras, I just took the Note 8. So no test charts, no spec sheets, I just went out and used it and shot with it. So there you have it. I shot that video in about half a day with only a travel tripod. The feature that stood out the most to me was the Pro mode. It gives you manual control over all the settings such as white balance, shutter speed, ISO. There's also multiple color profiles that you can tweak, customize, and save as your own presets. The optical image stabilization is in both of the rear cameras and works really well, but I don't recommend activating the video electronic stabilization. It tends to create very jerky, unnatural movements, and that's definitely not what you want for your videos. Low light is also good, but like all smartphones, you're taking a massive image quality hit if you try to shoot in low light, both for video and for photos. And subjectively, I don't feel like the Samsung Note 8's photo quality is the best compared to its competitors. It's still very good, but subjectively, again, I just felt like something was a little bit lacking, even in bright daylight. Live focus can also be very temperamental. It wants a certain distance, it wants a certain amount of light, different contrast, and even when you do get it to work, the effect can look very artificial. But thankfully, I think this is something that can be improved through firmware and software updates. But the video I think right now is definitely class leading. It has gorgeous 4K both on the selfie camera as well as the main rear camera. And of course, the screen is gorgeous. Lots of details, great colors. If you go back to an older phone, it's very easy to be dissatisfied when it looks more washed out and fuzzy compared to the Note 8. So, in a lot of ways, I feel like the Samsung Note 8 has a lot of powerful hardware that's hampered and kind of held back by the software. Live focus, in terms of the idea, is great. I love the fact that you can adjust the amount of bokeh after you've taken the photo, but how it works is still very much a work in progress, and it doesn't really feel like a polished product yet. Even in the video, while it has amazing 4K for both the rear and selfie camera, it's weird that the slow motion options are limited to 720p at 120 frames per second. 1080p at 120 frames per second for slow motion seems to be pretty common, and 240 frames per second, at least in bursts, also seem to be possible at 1080p. But the fact that Samsung only implements slow motion at 720 just seems like an odd omission. Also, since this is a flagship phone for the next generation of smartphones, it's also a little bit disappointing that Samsung wasn't able to include 4K at 60 frames per second, as that's going to be the new standard. But make no mistake, the Note 8 is a very powerful piece of kit for any creative who's trying to do any kind of video filming. A few things could make this almost a must-buy. If Samsung would develop a flat or a log profile, as well as an option to touch to focus with variable speed ramping. Just these two things would make it a very interesting alternative to buying a point-and-shoot camera like a Sony RX100 or a GoPro. So as it stands right now, I don't think the Note 8 is a compelling enough option for creatives, but it's so tantalizingly close. Just a couple of firmware updates, a few software tweaks, and I really think that this could be a filmmaker's pocket camera without having to invest in something else. Well, I hope that helps. This is G from TSlug.